Aloha, everybody, and welcome to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. I'm your host, Drew Manning.
And I'm your co-host, Lynn Manning.
Thank you guys for joining us again here on the podcast. As you guys know, yesterday was Steve and Tasha's episode on Fit to Fat to Fit on A&E. And so we are naturally going to have them on. That's what we're going to do for the next 8 weeks now. Last week we had JJ and Ray on. This week we had Steve and Tasha. And actually Steve's wife, Bonnie, joins us as well. So you're in for a very entertaining episode. We talk about a lot of behind the scenes stuff, some of the struggles that they had, and a lot of great information on this one, you guys. And I promise you will laugh your butts off.
Yeah, we talk about Steve's prostate. Just kidding. Prostate. But actually I'm not. Just kidding.
Yeah, and we have some funny stories from Bonnie about during Steve's Fit to Fat to Fit experience and what Steve's Fit to Fat to Fit experiment meant to Tasha. Did she find value in it, or did she feel like it didn't really change the way Steve trained at all? So a lot of great information, you guys, and we appreciate you guys joining us each and every week here on the podcast. We hope you're tuning into the TV show on A&E every week, and we appreciate all the support. Okay, before we jump into today's episode, this week's episode is brought to you guys by none other than DollarWorkoutClub.com.
Woo woo!
Now, DollarWorkoutClub.com, as you know, if you haven't already heard, is a program that me, Lynn, and Natalie Hodson got together and created. It's an online platform, and it costs just $1 per week, and you get access to 5 at-home workout videos that can be done at any fitness level, beginner, intermediate, or advanced, and all the workouts are between 8 to 20 minutes max. So our philosophy is working out smarter, not longer. So you get 5 of those at-home workout videos. You get 5 motivational videos and 5 healthy recipe videos, all new content every single week, and all you just pay is $1. So high quality product, very, very low cost, and we couldn't be more proud of it.
Yeah, no contracts, no hidden fees, you guys. A lot of people, the common question I always get is like, what's the catch? There really is no catch. You know, we hope to send this quality content to the masses. You can cancel at any time. One of my favorite parts is actually the healthy recipes. We try to make them delicious, but very simple. I like the videos, but we also have all the details written out. And then we keep a library with all the videos. So literally, you're going to have dozens of great recipes to choose from. So check it out, DollarWorkoutClub.com.
Yeah, and honestly, you guys, there's a lot of competition. Obviously, there's Daily Burn, there's the new Beachbody, these subscription websites that you pay a monthly fee. They're anywhere from like $10 to $15, but you don't get all 3 things. You don't get workouts, recipes, and motivational videos for that $10 to $15. Sometimes it's just a workout program, or sometimes it's just a workout and a meal plan program. Whereas we at Dollar Workout Club encompass everything that you need for a very, very low cost. But, you know, we feel it's just as good, if not better, than these other programs. So check it out, DollarWorkoutClub.com. And we'd love to have you as part of the DWC family is what we call it. Okay, let's go jump into today's episode with Steve, Bonnie, and Tasha. Welcome to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. Steve, Bonnie, and Tasha, thank you guys so much for joining us today. How are you guys doing all the way over there in Florida?
We're great.
Doing good.
We're hot.
Us too.
So are we in Hawaii. It's really hot out here. We feel your pain. Anyways, awesome episode last night, you guys. I really, really loved your guys' episode because it really showed the emotional side of this journey. Just like, you know, JJ's episode did last week.
But very different.
But very different.
Yeah.
Steve's the different. So
Steve had a lot harder of a time gaining the weight than JJ did.
Yeah. Well, he gained 60 some pounds, but you guys both struggled emotionally, which was really interesting. We're going to dive into all of that today, but really quick, Steve, I want people to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. You're the oldest trainer on the show, but obviously you're in amazing shape. And
golly.
Hey.
Well, we're going to cut this short.
Hold on a second. I didn't finish. With that being said, you're one of the most in shape guys out of all the trainers on the show. So I didn't finish what I was going to say.
All they heard was old. And they just ran with it.
Hey,
Your Christmas list.
So okay, I'll try not to dig this hole any deeper. I promise,
okay.
Steve. Just know I love you, okay?
Right on.
But anyways, so tell us a little bit about how you got started in the fitness industry. How did you get started with health and fitness to begin with?
Oh, gosh. Probably in the mid to late 90s, I started actually teaching aerobics. I was one of the only step instructors back then. I say only. I was one of the only male step instructors.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And that kind of segued into personal training, and that's how I started to put myself through college. I started off with exercise nutrition, and just kind of knew that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I started off wrestling in high school, and that's when I first lost a lot of weight and started getting in shape. And I knew what it did for my self-confidence. And I kind of grew up as a chubby kid, not obese, but just kind of chubby and out of shape. And, I had a lot of insecurities and that kind of thing. And I knew what fitness had done for me. So as I got older, I just had that natural affinity for lifting weight. Plus, growing up in the 70s and 80s, it's kind of, it was the Arnold Schwarzenegger era, and Thor and Hulk and, all that kind of stuff. So, all your heroes were all these big guys, and it's not so much like that anymore. But, I had that in the back of my mind, and I did want to help, and I really did have a heart for changing lives. And it just kind of segued itself into exercise nutrition and personal training. And then eventually, a lot of my clients had a lot of issues that I felt like, wow, if I knew how to help them out before they would have gotten hurt, what a great thing that would be. So I actually then went on to physical therapy school and got a degree in physical therapy. And as I was thinking about starting a practice with that, my wife and I got an opportunity to partner into a gym. And so in 2000, we had our first gym in Valdosta, Georgia, and it's just kind of been like that ever since.
That's awesome. So cool. And so really quick for you, Bonnie, have you always been into health and fitness as well? Or did Steve kind of bring that with him when you guys met?
No, I worked at my first health club when I was 18, and I worked at actually a couple different locations. And it's funny, even as a kid, my dad always had home gym equipment. And I would get on there and do leg extension. I was like, Dad, look how strong I am. I can lift 80 pounds. My dad was like, wow, those skinny legs really do something though. And I was like, I remember being really proud of myself.
Oh, I love that.
I have actually a picture of my dad doing the crab, flexing every bit of every muscle he had. And it's funny because I thought he was, just jacked then. And I look back and he was just, all he was is lean. He was a skinny, lean guy with a little bit of muscle. He's actually more jacked now. But so I started kind of at a young age. I'd kind of I heard there was an application at a gym. I went there, and when I started showing people on equipment and showing them how to use it, it was so neat to see how much appreciation they had for the instruction and the help. And I realized, I had never struggled with my weight prior to Steve and I getting married. And then I got married and on the pill, and my hips spread, and I went from a size 6 to a size 12, and that was the first time I'd actually experienced having to put on a big baggy T-shirt and go to the gym and hide and see all these hot college girls working out, and had that whole
that's the worst.
Yeah.
She's always beautiful to me.
Oh, whatever.
Good
you guys
answer.
How long have you guys been married?
21 years.
Okay,
Wow.
That's amazing. I think you guys
that.
are such a great example, and I love following you guys on social media. I kind of want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that a lot of people don't know about. And Bonnie, you were it surprised me how open and vulnerable you were in talking about your guys' struggles, because you come across as this perfect couple. You're in shape. You guys work out together.
Beautiful couple.
Yeah, Ken and Barbie is what your guys' nicknames out there, right? So I would love for you guys to open up a little bit and talk about those dark times. And I don't know how many years ago it was, but it blew me away, but it was inspirational. Can you guys talk a little bit about that and how you overcame those dark days for you guys?
Sure. Yeah. It happened a little over 2 years ago. Everything kind of came to a head, and we, really, it kind of in the bottom line is we put work before everything else, and our marriage started to deteriorate. And actually, I'm looking at a picture on the wall right now that has the hospital bands and the bullet hole on the wall and all this memorabilia from that time. But basically, Steve was shot accidentally, and he that wasn't his rock bottom. You would think that you get shot and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, okay, But it was really 2 or 3 days later when I actually went in the hospital to have a tumor removed that I didn't even know I even had. That was kind of when he realized, okay, God's doing something in us. He had about a month before that, he was saying he wanted to move out, and he wasn't happy, and I was completely blindsided. I mean, I knew he was struggling, but I thought it was depression. I didn't realize to the degree it was. And so this was about a month before he got shot. He was like, I don't see us ever liking each other or loving each other. I think we're right for each other. You don't love me and all this kind of stuff. And
Whoa.
I didn't even believe it. I mean, I told him, I said, that's ridiculous. You do love me. If you didn't love me, you wouldn't hurt this bad.
Yeah.
And I just refused. I refused to believe it. And he, he wanted to move out and all this kind of stuff. Then he got shot. Then I went to the hospital. Here we are, both broken in the hospital room together. And I remember he was reading a scripture that said, I'm doing a new thing. Can't you see it? He said, I'll make a way in the wilderness and streams in the desert. And we kind of looked at each other, and he's like, we couldn't deny that God was doing something new in us. And we could see it happening. We had no idea how in the world God was going to fix our marriage. We didn't know. I mean, I knew it would take a miracle. But I could see that Steve wanted to do the right thing. But what he wanted to be pleasing to the Lord, but there's no way he's going to do that and not be pleasing to our marriage, So we just had to make some commitments and recommitments to God and really just chase after what we felt like was what his was for our life. And in return, he blessed our socks off. I mean, honestly, it was two months after he had moved out. We were sharing our pastor asked us to share at our Valentine's Day dinner with the couples to encourage them to give them hope of people that think their marriage is falling apart, because it really is, emotions, you see those motivational things, every fitness is like, we love those motivational posts,
Yeah.
And then you see the motivational post and everybody's seen it where it says, follow your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, don't follow your heart. Your heart lies to you. And it's just amazing how we look back and we can see how emotions had caused us to, really, Steve was hook, line, and sinker, convinced that he didn't love me.
Yeah.
And we look back on it now and just realize how deceitful your heart can be. And so when we were in that hospital room that night, he actually started writing down everything. I mean, just journaling every thought, everything that happened. And he said, if we can make it through this, if God really wants us to, he said, I feel like if he's going to save this marriage, it's for a purpose. And he said, we have to tell our story. So we kind of agreed that night that if we were to make it, that we wouldn't do it quietly, and that we would share what we have gone through to encourage other people not to give up.
Man, I love that. Wow. Yeah, no, I love that, because I think we have a tendency, obviously, to do the opposite. I know so many people that, when we struggled in marriage, I know I did the exact same thing, that we tend to want to hide it. A lot of times people don't talk about the bad. They talk about how social media is the fun reel. What you see is all the good. Yeah. Like, look at all the amazing things I'm doing as a wife and as a mom and as a friend. And a lot of times we don't post the bad. We don't post, I'm having a really hard day, or my spouse and I are struggling, or, because we don't want to, quote, look bad. But it's in those vulnerable moments and in that honesty that not only, can we get love and support, but we can reach out and inspire others. And I'm sure by sharing your story of going through that and how low it got to the end of your rope, that you have inspired other couples, that have felt very much alone. I
look at it, very similar to fitness and weight loss, is that, if nobody knows that I used to be 100 pounds overweight, let's say, and they see a fit young or a thin girl or whatever, they don't appreciate the fit shaped girl, until they say, oh, I was 100 pounds heavier. And they're like, oh my gosh, really, you were? And then all of a sudden they're like, I feel like that's kind of like, basically Steve and I were really out of shape, obese couple that was just unhealthy. And if we don't share the before, you never really appreciate the after. And I think it's, my parents were always very vocal and verbal about their own struggles. So I knew marriage was tough. It was not a surprise to me. It was a little bit more of a surprise to Steve. I think Steve thought it was what the movies were, rolling around the beach, and, everybody was infatuated with each other and sexy and stuff. And nobody folded laundry and did like normal daily things. It was just whatever you saw on TV. That was what love was.
Yeah.
So it was
hold on. A lot of it's under the premise of when I got married, Bonnie really did make me happy. And I had started to put a lot of weight in that was really what I thought marriage was all about. It was about to make me happy.
It's all about you.
Bonnie read something in a blog that she shared with me one time, that marriage isn't there to make you happy. It's really there to make you holy. It's for the first time, really learning what it's like to truly love somebody, kind of not because or not 50-50, but just wanting to serve that person, wanting to see you make that person happy regardless.
Well, there's nobody that pulls the junk out of you. There's nobody that's going to push my buttons as much as Steve.
What?
And so, and that's that refining part that, if we were just all get divorced every time all that junk starts going to the surface, you're not working on that junk. Your spouse brings that to the surface for you to address and improve and grow. And but unfortunately, in the world we lived in today, as soon as you have enough junk come to the surface that you don't like, you just skate and go to another person and see if and eventually your junk's going to come back up again. So it's funny. The return is that as yes, marriage is not necessarily Steve. My goal in life, I want to please Steve. I want to love him and stuff. But it's the marriage. He was looking to me to be happy. Like he was only going to be happy if I made him happy in his mind. And but when you look at marriage as a different, like my spouse is a tool, a refining tool, and sometimes it's going to feel like a really coarse sandpaper that's going to hurt, but it's going to polish out the rough edges if I allow that tool to stay with me long enough. And and that's kind of what, now that we see marriage the way I feel like it's in a healthy view, instead of it's up to me only to make Steve happy, which is ridiculous. And there's no human that's perfect that can make somebody happy like that.
Yeah. But you do now.
Yeah. But as a result, there's no pressure, and now we actually are more happy than ever because we have so much more grace for each other. We extend grace to each other when we screw up and stuff like that because there's not that pressure. So anyway, bottom line is just like with marriage and fitness, we've learned how to eat right. We've learned to take in the right things in our marriage. We've learned how to learned how to get healthy, and we just want to share it just like we do when we share the information that we've learned with actual fitness.
Well, the biggest take home for me was the obedience, and that's kind of Tasha and I really went through all that. You'll see it in the episode as we're getting skinnier and skinnier and hungrier, and you vibe on your emotions so much. You might feel this way, and you have a really strong desire to do this or do that, eat this, rest, not work out.
Yeah.
And it's just your emotions, especially losing weight and especially in relationships like marriage, your emotions just lie to you. They feel so real. They can make you feel like you're starving, yet it passes. And regrettably, we do things during those times when we're trying to satisfy those appetites, and you're giving into your own desires and not looking out for the needs of others. When you start to serve yourself based on your emotions, it really wrecks your long-term goals. It really wrecks whatever you're truly called towards, whether that's fitness or being a good dad or husband. So keeping the end game, keeping the end goal in mind, you don't have a choice but to be disciplined and be obedient in your choices, not based on how you feel at that second. You can't go off of those desires. So it was really interesting as I was obedient and I came back, because one of the first things I told Bonnie, this is before I got shot, I told Bonnie, I was like, you know what? I think we're supposed to stay together, because I had prayed about it. And I was trying to justify leaving the best I could. But I finally came down to the end. I'm like, you know what? I really feel like we're supposed to be together. I said, but don't make any mistakes about it. That's when I dumped all this. I don't want to be here. I don't love you, but I'm going to stay here. That's what I'm supposed to do. That sort of thing. And somewhere in the obedience, my heart started to break, and oh boy. And God started to change my heart for her. And then, of course, then I got shot, and we got shut in this room, and it was almost like he put us in timeout in a hospital room for 3 days. And all we had to do was just talk about how to fix this and talk about forgiveness and talk about grace and talk about where we went wrong to begin with. And anyway, it was a really interesting time, but it all did just like fitness. It really did start with obedience and making good choices based on where you want to be, not on how you feel.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you guys so much for sharing that, because I wanted you guys to share that, because I think it's very inspirational and motivational, but it's kind of cool how you guys related it to fitness. A lot of things in life, our spirituality, I think, is related to our physical fitness and vice versa. So thank you guys for sharing that. I kind of want to switch gears and get Tasha in here a little bit, because I feel like she's been left out so far. But Tasha, you are... I love your personality, first of all, but I want you to give people a little bit of your view of yourself before you did this show. How did you view yourself growing up as a mom, when you first became a mom, before you got into this, the TV show?
A selfless mom.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a teenage mom, and I did everything for my family and my husband, and made sure that they were happy and taken care of. And I thought I was the greatest mom ever, because I always put them first. I thought that's what you were supposed to do, and that's what would be, great.
Yeah.
Family.
But then on the inside, did you like who you were as a selfless mom? Did that make you feel happy? Like, I'm such a great mom, I do these things for my kids. How did you feel on the inside with being this selfless mom that you viewed yourself as?
I did feel that I was doing great, and I was happy with myself. I didn't resent it at all.
Yeah.
It took long into my journey, this journey, to realize that it was a little backwards, but I wasn't happy. I figured that out, obviously, but I just thought that I was a great mom for doing it that way.
Yeah. And I think a lot of moms out there can relate to that. They're like, you know what? I don't exercise, I don't eat healthy, but at the same time, my kids are happy. My husband's happy. I'm doing all these great things for my kids. And that's my justification for, not taking care of myself, is because, I find happiness in serving other people. And a lot of women can relate to that.
Oh yeah. And I know, that's always been an excuse of mine. A lot of times I even would resent Drew, because, he would go to the gym, especially back in the day. He would go to the gym for longer. He could be at the gym for 2 hours, and, and then he would make a comment like, oh, why don't you go to the gym? And I'd make a snide remark like, yeah, I'd love to have the time to do that, but, in between, like, everything else I'm doing, like working and cleaning and, serving in the neighborhood or church calling and friends and kids. And yeah, I'd love to have 2 hours, and then I realized as time went on that, we are like a well. And we're constantly, giving of the water within our well. But if we're not doing stuff for ourselves, if we're not feeling that well, it's empty. And so it's that catch-22 of explaining to someone, I know you don't feel like you have time, but if you make the time for yourself, I promise other things will start falling into place. You'll be happier. You'll be able to give more. But if you write it out on paper, or try to show someone that vision, a lot of times they're like, I don't get it. I'm like, you just have to trust, do something for yourself, focus on you. And as you're doing that, you're really going to be able to give more to those around you, especially to your family.
Exactly. And that's happened now. That's totally how it's happened. I'm way happier. I didn't realize how I was sad or resentful a little bit. I didn't realize any of that until I started taking care of myself and putting myself first. And actually, the kids seem happier, because I don't know, they just love that I'm in shape and I'm able to participate with them. I'm not just the sideline mom. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And what's funny is it actually takes some faith, relating it to what Steve and Bonnie were saying, the spiritual side of it. It takes some faith, saying to yourself, if I dedicate time to myself, this is going to make me a better person. But at first you're kind of doubtful. You're like, well, it seems like it wouldn't, because I'm already happy and I'm doing all these nice things. Service is important, but I'm not serving myself. It's like, well, it's going to take some faith for you to just do it, take care of yourself, and then see how much better you feel. And so now it sounds like you're living that lifestyle. I kind of want to go back to Steve a little bit and ask you why, because you've been on other TV shows, Steve. Why did you want to do Fit to Fat to Fit? What was the reason?
It started off where Bonnie and I, or I guess mostly me, I was praying for, as things were changing that year. We heard about the casting for it late in 2014. And, I was wondering, our marriage was going well. We're spending some time, fixing that, getting more involved in church. Relationship with God is growing. And I just wanted to know, am I evolving as a husband? Am I changing, or is my identity still caught up in this old guy that was still full of flesh and self-serving? And, like, who was I? How am I changing? So as I started thinking about that and praying about that, it was like, lo and behold, we get a call about the casting. And it was interesting because my first thought was, wow, maybe this is it. And as the casting process went on, I realized what they were asking, because they weren't real upfront about it at first.
Intentionally.
Just sign here first, and then we'll tell you about it.
We know trainers. The last thing we wanted to start with is, hey, do you want to gain some weight? Like 50 pounds?
Exactly. And it grew from there, but it became painfully obvious, because I had heard about Drew's journey, but I hadn't looked at it intimately. I didn't really look at the entire thing. So they called back 3 times. By the second time, I knew that it was based on Drew's book, Fit to Fat to Fit. And that's when I got worried. I started scrolling around and I pulled up pictures of Drew, and I was like, oh no, and I could tell, I could hear. So here's what I was hearing. It's like not an audible voice from God coming down and saying anything, but I really felt impressed that God was saying, I'm going to bring you to a point where you're going to have to let go of yourself, and you're just going to have to trust me completely. And that's when I knew that this whole Fit to Fat thing was what I felt like I was being called to. And at that time, I felt like I was all in. I was like, you know what? I've never gained, I do amateur bodybuilding type stuff, and I've competed, and I've wrestled in the past, and I've dropped weight. And after I've dropped a lot of weight, it's nothing for me to gain 30 pounds, but 50, 60, 65, I've never in my life, and I didn't even know if my body could. But that was the point I think God was trying to make in my life is why don't you do something where you have to depend on me completely?
Yeah.
And so I kind of let go of myself, and sure enough, as the months went on, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing less and less of myself, and it was scary. But I learned that if I ever want to know who I'm going to be, in Christ, then I need to let go of everything that I thought I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my journey. That's how it all started. And so it was a very, I don't want to call it a religious, spiritual thing, but it was, I felt called to it to really find out who I am without being the fit guy. And I know, talking to Drew and reading some, I realized that's who you were in the community. You were the fit guy. You had, there was expectations you had on yourself and other people had on you. And in our community, it was the same thing. No matter where I went, I was that guy. And even Tosh, before, when she and I first met, she had taken one of my boot camps 3 or 4 years earlier, if not more, right?
Yes.
So, it's like everybody kind of knew me as that guy. So it was interesting because I got to let go of that and see who I was, in my skin.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember when he came home he was going to Sam's to get something, and he came home and he goes, man, I just realized how prideful I really am. He said, I am so ashamed. I have my cart and I'm going around the corner and I've got like pizza and I've got all these things. And he goes, and I just was thinking, man, I hope I don't see so-and-so, or I hope nobody sees me from the gym, and he said, I realized there was something about, living that fitness lifestyle that where you're like, you're standing tall, your head's up, and, you got, look at my cart. I got
kale.
Don't you wish you were as disciplined as me? And it's funny because Steve and I have never thought of ourselves as
self-righteous,
prideful and self-righteous like that. But I think it's been such part of a lifestyle for so long that we were used to just feel it's funny because it's a natural response to be proud of yourself. Proud of yourself that you go to the gym. Proud of yourself that you eat well and stuff like that. But I think that's can be really scary line to cross when you start becoming judgmental because I'm so self-righteous. I eat well and everybody should. It's not that hard, whatever and stuff. And it really kind of Steve said I really learned something about myself today because I didn't realize how proud I was of my lifestyle. And it wasn't so much. Steve's always been very, very kind of what do you call it? Conservative, like he doesn't walk around with his shirt off. It's like if it has to be really hot when he's washing the car, maybe to take his shirt off. He's always been pretty, conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff. So it's not like he was prideful with his body, because he was always very. He's lifting up his shirt right now, sticking out his belly. But you know, so it was really, you know, going to the beach with your shirt off and stuff like that was the whole experience. I have to say, I really thought he did way better than I thought he was. I thought he was going to be crying all the time.
Oh, she's calling him out. She's calling him out.
Yeah, she's good at that.
No. What I love about what you're saying is, you know, I find it interesting. You know, as a trainer myself, I try to reinforce and reiterate over and over and over to my clients that you are not your weight. You are not just your looks. You know, people focus so much on the exterior, and somebody that's overweight is going to be struggling, feeling down about themselves and how they look. And like you're saying, having no pride in themselves because of their weight and because of their looks. And it's funny that they have that. We try to reinforce, like, you are not your looks, you are not your weight. But on the flip side, you know, Bonnie and Steve, you're pointing out, you know, Steve had to come to that realization on the opposite end. You know, that it, you know, being a fit person, you know, a lot of times I feel like as trainers, and as I talk to a few of the different spouses that, you know, that were struggling as their spouse was going through the Fit to Fat to Fit TV show, I'd remind them, like, remind your spouse that this is not who they are. They are not just a fit person. They are not just their looks. They are not just a six pack. Like, you're so much more than that. And it's interesting that, you know, as trainers, we try to reinforce that to our clients, but we forget that we kind of need to remind ourselves and reinforce that to ourselves as well. So Steve, sorry, that was like a long segue into my question that I've been thinking, sorry, it's because I'm a woman. So what I was thinking is, you know, how did you view, you know, going through this whole process, you know, how you viewed overweight people before you started this journey versus now? What's the biggest difference?
A lot of things didn't change. You know, the fact that it's bad choices, the fact that they're continuing to make bad choices, but the thing, and, you know, environment, that kind of stuff. But the thing that did change for me is realizing how much somebody's going to wrestle with the behavior of being fat and trying to change it, or just being out of shape. Because I see the same thing with sedentary people, whether they're fat or not, just trying to get somebody to get fit. So never mind the weight thing. I think what I used to struggle with, and I didn't think that I was being judgmental, but it's like, look at the lifestyle. I already knew when I look at a client, I imagine you guys do too. I think as trainers, one of the things we're gifted with is seeing somebody's potential. And we know what it's like to be fit. So you're thinking, man, you could have this peace, this joy. You can move freely. You don't have to be so enslaved to your body or a sedentary lifestyle or feeling sick. And the funny thing is, those people, if they've never been fit, don't even have a clue how they're feeling. And I'm looking at that as you're practically you have 1 foot in the coffin already, and they don't have anything to compare it to. And you're trying to, I don't know how to explain it. You have the hope that this person will change their life, change their body, change their lifestyle. But it's a hard sell when they're thinking, oh, well, you've always been fit. You know, you're never going to understand what I'm feeling, that sort of thing.
That's kind of why we share our marriage thing. We're like, they listen to your advice a lot more when they know you've gone through tough times too. You know, with the fitness. And
that's one of the reasons I felt like I needed to do this journey, was because there's something I'm missing. I don't understand why it's so hard for them. I need to have a better understanding. And that's what caused me to eventually do this crazy journey. And now it's a TV show, and you guys are having to do it. Was that I felt like there was that disconnect. And, you know, people who were my clients told me, you don't understand. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It's so easy. Why is it so hard for you? And so it definitely gives you that a different perspective, a better understanding of kind of where they're coming from, right? We don't pretend to know exactly what it's like to grow up overweight and have the same experiences, but at least you can, at the end of the day, say you have a better understanding. Now, Tasha, in the episode, you got emotional when Steve told you he was going to be gaining weight. And I'm curious to ask you, what made you get emotional when Steve said he's going to be gaining weight for 4 months?
Because I know how hard it is and how people judge you and look at you and assume things about you. It's just you don't like yourself. I just didn't want to. I mean, I didn't like who I was. I didn't want him to have to go through it. It's just a terrible thing.
That's so interesting. And I love that. It's so powerful because Ray from last week's episode kind of experienced the same thing when JJ told him he was going to be doing that. And do you feel like you appreciated Steve more for doing that versus if this was just a typical weight loss show where he's this trainer telling you to lose weight? Do you feel like there was some value in him having to do this first before training you?
Absolutely. I feel like he knew what I was feeling and all the emotions and how actually it really was hard for being an overweight person, like the aches, the pains, the emotional weight of it, like how you feel when you try to work out and people are looking at you. Just, he totally put himself in my shoe. Yes, totally. I much more respect and yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. Go ahead.
It's funny. I was just going to say, when people would go up to me and ask me about Steve gaining weight, I heard Steve has to gain weight, or what's he, or just kind of like, there. And it was interesting to me how many people that people that were overweight, their response almost every single time was, "Wow, that is really cool," and then the fit people were like, "What, is he, an idiot?"
That's true.
But it's funny. I was really overwhelmed by how many people, and it was definitely the people that struggle with weight themselves, how I could see something in their eyes of just they connected instantly. Like they thought that was the coolest thing, that Steve was willing to give up his body basically and everything that he knew to pack on these pounds in order to get in the skin of a client and understand what they went through. It was, I wasn't expecting that. I thought people might think he's crazy and all that kind of stuff. But when I saw how it connected with people, I realized the value of, there's nothing like you said, I think one of y'all said, of gaining weight, growing up and having a long term, Steve was chubby and on a diet as a kid, so he had some of that experience, and some people I've seen out there have said stuff like, that's ridiculous. They're not going to understand how somebody's, how somebody really struggles with that. They've been fit all their life and they don't, some people discounted it, but
sure.
But I think all in all, I think it's been, I know for me, I led them in boot camp. And Steve was dead last, like for the first few weeks, he was like really struggling. And if nothing else, he would be like, we really need, he'd done boot camp before. He'd never done the actual program. And so for him to actually be there with Tasha, and Tasha was kicking his butt. And then she was wrong.
Yeah, girl. Love that.
Yeah. So, when one thing that I know that Steve has had a kind of a new experience with was being the overweight person in our boot camp programs, being the overweight client, putting himself through stuff. He definitely, it made us kind of even change a little bit and just restructure our boot camp even just a little bit. Just some of the stuff that he realized was insanely hard that doesn't really need to be insanely hard, even though we want to keep it tough and we want it to have good results. It was kind of an eye opener for him of what he feels like it's good to get in the client's shoes and actually experience what the client experiences. And even though we have done that all our lives, we did it as fit people, not as overweight people, for the most part. We've had our ups and downs through, we both got fat when we got married, and stuff like that. But nothing like what, not living like the healthy lifestyles that we live now. It's not really fair for the trainer to put himself to the workout and consider that a good example of what's going through. So yeah, I know for him, it definitely changed some stuff.
Well, that's the thing is like people are always going to say, muscle memory, you were only overweight for 4 months. There's no way you could understand. I agree 100%. I'm like, look, you're totally right. There's no way I could ever really know exactly what you're going through. And the same thing for the trainers on the show. And I don't think we pretend to know, oh, look, we've done this. Now we have this badge of like, hey, we know what you're going through for the most part. But you can at the end of the day, at least say you have a better understanding. At least for me, I definitely gained some empathy, gained a better perspective. And at the end of the day, every trainer on the show appreciated their health so much more having gone through this. Once their health is gone and taken away, then they realize, okay, I'm not my body. I'm not just my six pack. There's more to me, and you have to learn and grow from this. And I definitely saw that in every single trainer, Steve included. So I got to ask you, Steve, and you got to be honest with me, your first workout back with Tasha, when you got to ask me, or you got to answer me, how hard was that, like, for reals? Because I know on the episode they edited a lot of stuff out. How hard was that first workout back?
Unbelievable. You think back in your life to some of the hardest, most sobering workouts you ever had. For me, it was like preseason, the first time I made the wrestling team for varsity. You're going from JV, and they're just proving a point that you have a long way to go. That was a hard one. I remember, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, during my basic training. I remember when they tried to kill us there. I got a chance to work out with a couple of the MMA guys who came to a local gym where I was at, and they wanted to put a beat down on me just to prove a point. It's those epic, once in a lifetime type things. And this was definitely the top of all of that. It was brutal. The cameras are on you. You got the producers yelling at you, wanting it to be organic, which was not a problem. And then the other side of it too is, here's this woman that I'm responsible for, that this is our first workout together for the most part. And I didn't feel validated. I felt like who am I to train her when she's here kicking my butt? It started off some behind the scenes. Really great producer for this company, Craig and we really got to be close, of course, doing all this. But he's like, well, let's put her through a little bit of the workout. So you saw on the beach, I'm working her out, and I think behind the scenes, they're unbeknownst to me. Now you're going to do it. I'm like, what? I'm going to do what? No. This was her workout. I have something completely different from me. So the thing I know, and I like a grown up, I'm like, okay, I'll do this, and I'm trying to think, surely it can't be as bad as what it did. I'll do a little bit better than she did. Man alive. What was it, like halfway down the little course going back and forth? I thought I was going to die, but I have the resolve to be able to suck it up. And luckily, training the way I have in the past, I knew what would kill me and what wouldn't. So I pushed all the way to the point where I didn't think I was going to die. And Greg was
you
like, okay,
looked like you might die on the show, on the episode. I mean,
we're not there yet. So that's when Craig told me that we need to do it a few more times. I'm like, can't you just kind of splice and edit and do whatever you need to do? So I went through it. I finished the course, and then I think I can't remember how many times she actually did it, like 3 times. I think I only did it twice. But it was, honestly, I went past the point of, because you have the cameras on you. I've got the accountability of Tasha being there, and I'm supposed to be this trainer guy that's going to be on A&E and all that stuff, And the other part of it too, Drew, you probably felt this. My body remembered what it was like to run through sand and carry stuff. It's like that was not a problem. But my muscles and my brain had a very brief discussion on quitting, and my brain won.
Yeah, but what's interesting is it's so good to be humbled, right? We all agree that to be humbled is a good thing. It makes you a better person, makes you... What's that?
Not on national TV.
Not on national TV. No, that's what everybody's going to love. I think the one single piece that people are going to love is not just you getting fat, but your first workout back.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because it's like, yes, see, that's how hard it is. You don't understand.
And honestly, I'm not going to lie, Steve. I'm just throwing it out there to be honest. I love seeing that, especially because at times you had such a hard time gaining the weight, and there's me, and I'm like, I could eat all that food and never feel sick and gain the weight in a heartbeat because I have before. And then I saw you die in the workout. I'm like, okay, he's all good. So it's all good.
Okay, well, we're running out of time, you guys. So what we want to do first, before we jump into our lightning round, which is the funnest part of the show, to be honest with you, is first tell everybody where they can find you, your social media, your websites. We'll start with Steve, Tasha, and then we'll do Bonnie.
He's looking at me like, you tell him.
He's like,
Steve's like, wait, where do people
what's my
find me?
social
What's
media?
my
Okay,
social
maybe
media?
Bonnie, you tell us where everybody is, or you and Steve at least.
They can always go, if you can't remember anything, you can go to fitblog.com, which is a play on our last name, so it's PFITBLOG. So fitblog.com has all of our links to Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But Steve's Twitter and Instagram is his name. It's at Steve Feaster.
And Feaster's P-F-I-E-S-T-E-R. So Steve Feaster with the whole backslash there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's social. He's learning. I'm at Bonnie Feaster is my handle for Instagram and Twitter, and then Bonnie's fan page on Facebook. But again, everything's kind of hubbed out of the Fit blog, and that's where they can find. You can see our marriage testimony and our blogs and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
And then
Tasha.
For Facebook, it's Tasha Reese, R-E-I-S-S, Cruz. And then for Instagram, it's just Tasha Cruz with 2 Z's.
Awesome. We're going to put that in the show notes,
this will all
too.
be in the show notes just for everybody to know.
Yeah,
But that way,
everyone
because here's the thing: when you're on TV like this, people are going to want to reach out to you. They connect with you, and they're going to want to be inspired by you even after the show. So that's what's great about social media. Okay, lightning round. I'm going to turn the time over to Lynn.
All right, so
and you guys, she'll explain the rules.
My favorite part. All right, so lightning round. My favorite part, the least important part of the show, which is why it's my favorite part. So we're going to ask you some questions. They literally probably don't matter, but they matter to me. And I want you to answer them as quickly as possible.
First thing that comes to your mind.
The first thing that comes to your mind. No filtering. Okay, whatever starts jump. This is where people aren't going to hear this, but you guys were asking, hey, if we say something really bad, can you edit it out? And I was like, no. And this is why. Because of the lightning. Okay.
And we'll let you guys pick who goes first, but
Well,
it's for all three of you.
maybe I might decide who I want to go first.
Okay.
Most embarrassing moment during the 8 months of filming. Steve.
Getting my prostate checked on camera.
Oh!
Wow, that's a good
There's
one.
only 2 people laughing right now.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Oh
funny.
man.
Okay.
Well, that was better than I thought it was going to be. Okay, Tasha. Most embarrassing moment during the 8 months of filming. It could be on or off camera. It doesn't matter. Just during the whole period of time.
Peeing my pants, working out on camera.
It's because you've had kids. Amen, girl. I got you. Makes you feel better. I film workouts.
And I had all guys. Like the producers were guys, Steve was a guy,
Dang
the camera guy, everyone was a guy. So no one.
But
Were you
just so she
wearing-
would feel sorry for herself, I peed my pants a few times.
Like Happy Gilmore,
Right after the
right?
prostate was
Straight up
checked.
I am.
Right after the prostate was checked.
You're not
okay.
cool unless you pee your pants.
Okay.
Right? That's funny.
Favorite
Depends.
treat food, Bronny.
Favorite cheat food?
Yes.
I call it treat. You can call it cheat, whatever you want. I like treat. Sounds better.
Mexican, anything Mexican.
Oh, anything. Tacos, enchiladas, taquitos.
Chip salsa, guacamole, you name it. I want it all.
Wait. I have a question for Bonnie, really quick, Lynn. What was your most embarrassing experience with Steve, with him gaining the weight? Because I know you have some funny stories with him being overweight.
I don't know. I think probably we were out at a restaurant and he was like burping and stuff. And he just looked at me and goes, I am so sorry. I don't know what is happening to me. And he's like, but my body is just not agreeing with this food. And it was this moment of looking at me with these sad eyes of just, he didn't know what was going on. And he was looking down at his belly like it was hating on.
How can her most embarrassing moment be me being embarrassed? That's just wrong.
Yeah, no, it was just, yeah, you were
Well,
feeling bad.
I was gonna say it may be her looking around while you're passing gas and wondering like who's looking at you guys. I don't know. Just saying.
I mean, he did walk around with Pepto-Bismol in one pocket and Tums in the other back pocket, and they actually walked around like that. That's really hot.
Gosh. Oh my gosh, I love that. Sounds like pregnancy. Me too. Been there. Okay, Tasha. The best part or funniest part of you seeing Steve gain all that weight? Best part.
Oh, his man boobs, totally.
Wow. I'm glad you kept it to yourself.
Would you call that like a big B or a small C or I don't know.
Wow.
That is
Okay. Least favorite exercise move. Steve, Bonnie, then Tasha. Least favorite exercise move.
Oh.
If you do not have a least favorite exercise move, I'm going to punch you guys in the face. Just kidding.
I have
Just
least
kidding.
favorite. Like I hate long distance running, but as
That
far
can
as
count.
like just move goes, that counts.
Oh, that could totally count.
That totally counts.
I don't like running. I don't like running.
Long distance running, anything over 3 miles, I hate it with a passion.
When you said long distance running, I was thinking like 100 meters. But all right.
Yeah.
3 miles, sure, whatever.
But I really,
To each their own. Long distance, I think going to the car, whatever. Okay.
Who's that?
Bonnie.
It's a tie between stomps and big jacks.
What's
I
a
can't stand
stomp? What's a stomp?
it's like the Starburst type.
Oh, no, what? Yeah, the big jacks is like just a big, huge jack up in the air, and I'm not flexible, so I could either pull my groin, like I mean, it's not pretty, but anyway. And then stomps, you're down like in this crouched position, like at a lunge, and you kick one foot back, and you bring it back, only one leg at a time, so you're going one leg over
Like
and
a
over.
one-legged mountain climber kind of thing.
Yeah, and
yeah.
And it's always after like a string of leg exercises, so your quads are on fire. First time I ever did it, I stood up and we were actually on camera, and my leg gave out, and we had to splice it out because my leg quit working.
I've never done either of those. I've never done either of those.
I will have to share it on Instagram for you, but Tasha knows those stomps really well.
Yes, those don't bother me.
I hate them.
No, my
Okay.
least favorite. Yes. When I have to jump up onto the pull-up bar. Like the pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she hated like real mountain climbers when I made her do it.
Oh,
with
yes.
really good form.
Especially if my shoes are big.
Okay. No, I feel ya. Man, I have so many. I just realized I don't know if I have a real least favorite. All of those that you mentioned, I'm like, yeah, I don't like those either. I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. I don't like anything where you have to jump because if you've had kids, you pee your pants. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, you guys made it through. You suffered through the lightning round. Flying colors. Brilliant. Great answers. I mostly like the prostate answer the most, to be honest.
Okay, one last question. One last question before we go. Steve, I think I know your answer. Would you ever do Fit to Fat to Fit again?
Drew, I'm sorry, but I wouldn't. Man.
We need somebody for season 2, Steve. Come on, I'm just kidding.
Bonnie raised her hand.
Bonnie, what about you?
I don't know.
Hey, that's a maybe.
That's a maybe. Okay, I don't know. It's not. I know.
I
I'm
don't
just
know
kidding.
means maybe.
I wouldn't.
You guys
blame
are awesome. Your show, the show was so, your episode was so motivating, you guys, and inspirational. People, go to the show notes, go follow all of them. I'm sure they're going to be posting many motivational, inspirational things to come.
Yep, and next week, you guys don't forget to tune into Adonis and Alyssa's episode next Tuesday. And thank you guys for tuning in to Fit to Fat to Fit. And Steve, Tasha, Bonnie, thank you guys for being a part of the family and for spreading the good word and being part of this movement, this Fit to Fat to Fit movement. My hope with all of this, honestly, is to help bridge the gap between the two sides of these skinny fit people over here who judge and don't understand, and then people who are overweight who judge those on the other side. And if we could just have some better understanding on both sides and bridge that gap, this world and our society would be a lot happier place to live. So that's my hope with this whole Fit to Fat to Fit movement. So thank you guys for being a part of it, and thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast with Steve, Bonnie, and Tasha. We hope you enjoyed their episode on A&E. If you haven't watched it yet, or if you DVR'd it, go watch the episode first. You'll be inspired. You'll be motivated. We're glad that you are supporting both the podcast and the TV show. We appreciate all of our fans. If you haven't done so already, please go subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, and please leave us a review. It definitely helps when we have people leaving us reviews. It knows that what we're doing is valuable to you guys. please feel free to reach out to us on social media and let us know if you have suggestions for things you want to hear about, topics or guests you want us to have on. We're all ears, so feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you think. My website, if you want to reach out to me, is fit2fat2fit.com. Sign up for my newsletter to stay in the know. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at fit2fat2fit with the number 2. The TV show is Fit T-O Fat T-O Fit. So just remember the difference between those two.
Yeah, and if you want to find me, my website is the number 2 fitathome.com. I also have a newsletter sign up that you can sign up for there. All of my social media handles are the number 2 fit at home. So love to hear from you.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. And if you feel like donating to the podcast, we would definitely love to have your support to pay for the cost to keep this podcast alive. That's on the fit2fat2fit.com/podcast site. And we love you guys. We really do. And we hope you will join us next week for another great episode. See ya.
See you guys.